Welcome to this Kings of War Battlefield tour of England and Wales. Now in this tour I'll be looking at some of the gaming venues we've visited and recounting some successes by the Moonrakers. And we're going to start by heading from Salisbury, our home base, off to Banstead in Surrey. And in Banstead in Surrey was Woodmansterne Village Hall, and it was the venue for the Stain of Blood in spring 2020. 3 Moonrakers attended. The journey took us on the dark on a narrow winding road through a wood shrouded in mist. It felt a bit like the orcs must have felt in Fangorn Forest. It was a 1,495 point tournament, caused some army selection difficulties, but I eventually went with my Rordian forces. After assessing Game 1, in Game 2 I found myself facing the Fox and his Empire of Dust in a raised scenario. Despite the Fox killing more of my army than I had of his, I claimed the victory. I then found myself on top table for the final game, facing off against Matt G's Ogres in a loot scenario. Matt killed 80% of my army, but I managed to sneak a heavily damaged polearm regiment out of his assault range to claim the game and tournament win. And in the tournament, Andy finished 5th and Paul rolled in 7th. And this was the first occasion on which the Moonrakers Curiosity Award was presented for an unusual or curious event. And this was awarded to Rob, my dwarf opponent from Game 3, for his inability to make any successful headstrong rolls during the game. Now that is my sort of dwarf. Onwards then to Shepherd's Bush, and there it's Darksphere Megastore. 2 tournaments attended there, Kings of War Vanguard tournament in 2019 and Franticon in March 2020. It's a huge gaming venue in a game shop in the basement of an arcade in London, very close to a tube station and easy to get to. Eating venues nearby include a Wetherspoons and a hotel on site, or a cheaper option 3 stops away on the tube at Hanger Lane. It's my first Vanguard tournament here, and I had some lucky breaks with my Abyssals, managing to come away eventually with a 3rd place finish. It was also the venue for Franticon 2020, which I attended with Moonraker Andy. We stayed in a hotel at Hanger Lane, which is just a few stops away on a direct tube line, and our doubles army comprised a mix of Varangur and Rordia. The one army we didn't want to face was the Northern Kings of Elliot and Nick, and so inevitably we drew them in the first round. We had a poor first turn and it went downhill from there. Not helped by our dice. 16 attacks, 9 hits, 5 ones. We lost and we cried. However, fortified by the excellent lunch arranged by the tournament organisers, we headed off to Game 2, which was a control against Holy Shrek, a combination of Basilia and Ogres, piloted by David and Sven. Our fortunes reversed in this game and almost everything went our way, and then disaster struck. Andy double-wonned a nerve test and the next turn double-wonned again. This allowed the Basilians to countercharge and escape from the terrain to grab table sections. We had pulled a draw from the teeth of a victory. 3rd game we were still kicking ourselves for throwing away the win in our previous game, and we'd lost concentration. Another double-won didn't help. We played like deranged noblars and lost. Despite losing, it was a great event. Lots of old friends at that event to meet up with again. And in the evening we retired to a local curry house to lick our wounds and had a great evening out. Sunday morning saw Andy and me at the venue early, waiting outside Wetherspoons for it to open. It's interesting that this photo gained more likes on Facebook than the pictures of our armies had. This may say something about Kings of War fanatics. On day 2 the singles went just as badly as the doubles had, and I ended up with 3 losses and 1 win. So, not a stellar performance, but I did manage to pick up a Shadow Hulk in the shop's 40% off sale. It's just a shame I can't get him to stand up on a hill. Onwards now to Hemel Hempstead. And here the Aycliffe Drive Primary School, a school venue in Hemel Hempstead. Local shops for food, only a 2-minute walk away from a school with a Tesco Express and a chip shop. Venue is a school, so there is no bar or alcohol allowed on site. There is, however, a kitchenette offering tea, coffee and squash. The York tournaments are organised by Matt and Paul, who lay on great events. There's lots of space between tables at the venue, and they've run several events there, the Jack and King of Hearts being singles and doubles events that they run in the school. In 2018 I won the Jack of Hearts singles with my Abyssals, and that year I teamed up with Danny Graves in the King of Hearts doubles with Undead and the Herd. We had some tough matches against some familiar foes, including Rusty and Seb Reeves in game 2, but eventually we emerged as 3rd place. Rusty won Best Painted at this event, and in 2019 I teamed up with Grant Alexander with an Undead and Twilight Kin alliance in the King of Hearts school fundraiser event, unfortunately not covering ourselves in glory in this event. Onward now to a Black Dragon in Hinckley. This is a game shop in Hinckley run by Gary Sharp. It has a large bright playing area, there is a decent hotel nearby, and there are shops and cafes within a couple of minutes walking. The shop serves tea and coffee and sells chocolate and crisps. 2017 saw my herd competing in the Call of a Wild Wood. In game 1 I was drawn against Andy 2d6 and his Goblin War Machines. Needing 5 to hit with his war engines, the first 4 shots were all hit and wrecked any of my chances. I managed to pull out a draw, but it was downhill on combat kills. March 2019 and I went to the Danger Below tournament using my Abyssals. In 2019 my Goblins went to the 2000 point 2-dayer. After a bad start I managed to claw my way back up to 4th place. I've been to more events here, but I can't find any of the battle reports now, and I can't remember which tournament this picture was taken at, but Andy and I are both sporting the Moonraker summer plumage and both won awards at this event. And a word of warning, this shop can be dangerous. It stocks just about the widest range of Kings of War models of any shop I've been to. There's a great tendency to celebrate victory or assuage loss by stocking up on the latest must-have item. Onwards now to Loughborough. Loughborough runs Battlemaster in Loughborough each year. We'll be moving to a new venue in 2021, but in previous years it's been held in a village hall. Space has been a bit cramped, but Sharad goes out of his way to support the players, even bringing tea and toast to the tables during games. Loughborough is also a good night out with some craft beer and gin joints. In 2016 I attended an event which used rules straight out of a book. The highlight for me came when my opponent parked a Vampire Lord on Dragon just in front of my 5 war trombones. 30 seconds later it was a smoking hole in the ground and the smell of roast meat on the air. I hit the dizzy heights of 2nd place here. It was unfortunately not matched in 2017 when Paul and I both attended, finishing mid-table obscurity, not helped by the lack of forests on the table in which to hide my herd army. So return to form in 2018 when Paul and I both attended again. My Twilight Kin stole the show as I finished in top place, beating the King in the North in my final game. And for 2019 I attended with Andy and we took 6th and 7th places. Moving on now to Sutton in Ashfield. And this was the Sanctuary Gaming Centre. My first visit to the Sanctuary was to attend Clash of Kings 2016. Sutton in Ashfield is a 3-hour drive from Salisbury. Unless you break down, have to be returned to Salisbury and start again. In that case it's a 10-hour drive. Having arrived at 2 in the morning with the Fox and Matt James, I was in a poor state to play games on Saturday, but pulled it round on the Sunday. The highlight for me came when playing Matt James in the final game, my Goblins against his Orcs. He double won an important combat, tying up his combat units, and then doubled won the same combat again the next turn, gifting me the win. When we got to the end of turn 6, I didn't like to suggest we roll for turn 7, as I feared for the safety of my models. The Fox piloted his Night Stalkers to 4th, while I managed 13th place. We returned in venue in 2019 for the UK Masters run by Nick Williams. What a letdown. I attended with Andy and the Fox. The venue was a dump, with cobwebs adding a gothic chill to the already freezing environment. We were grateful for the Moonraker cold weather gear. On now to Stockport and Element Games. Element Games is a massive shop as well as a huge gaming hall. It has an on-site bar, walking distance from a cheap and decent hotel. All 4 Moonrakers were out in force for Clash of Kings 2018. Unfortunately, we had a less than stellar performance. Andy and I also attended another 4-foot snake thing in 2019, with Andy finishing 8th out of the 40 attendees. We also won the evening pub quiz, which, as you know, is the most important element of the tournament. For the 2019 Clash of Kings, the Fox had retired, at least temporarily, and we had a mercenary stand-in Moonfaker Nick Williams. Some good results this weekend, although not from Nick, unfortunately. Andy and I both won best in race with our armies, and we had some great memories of the event on the social side. Off now to Cardiff in Wales, to Firestorm Games. This is the venue for Clash of Kings 2017. It's a fantastic venue with a huge well-lit gaming space and a shop and a large car park. This is the end of the year in which I'd been trying to run a herd army without a stampede. I was very proud of my dinosaur-themed herd army. It was probably the first time I have planned and built from scratch a multi-based Kings of War army. And then I was told I could not use it as other players might not be able to distinguish the units. Oh well. It might have been the need to quickly prepare a proxy army that led to my disastrous results at this tournament. Clash of Kings 2021 will be held in Cardiff again, but by then Firestorm Games will have moved to a new venue. On now to Bristol, and Bristol Big. It's hosted many tournaments under the watchful eye of Matt James. This has been a happy hunting ground for the Moonrakers with a number of tournament successes. Southwest Clash 2017 saw an influx of gamers from across the country, some of whom considered it appropriate to start on the champagne mimosas before the tournament started. The Fox achieved a podium finish here. It's a good venue with lots of space, a shop and hot and cold drinks available, as well as being close to eating houses for lunch. But, as a warning, it's very cold in winter. It's understood that Big will shortly be moving to new premises. One of the most memorable tournaments here was held a one-day 4-game event that saw Moonraker and his Twilight kin and my Abyssals in first and second places going into Game 3. Andy won, but we were so far ahead of the field, but by this stage, despite my loss, I was still in second place, as we had to face each other again in the final round. Andy won again, and I plummeted down the placings to finish 5th. I was more successful at Christmas Carnage in 2019, taking the top spot with Moonraker Andy 4th and the Fox in 3rd place. Onwards again now to Pool and to Entoyment. This is a huge gaming store with a large and well-lit gaming space upstairs. Hot food and drinks are available on site. This has been another happy hunting ground for the Moonrakers, with several podium places, including winning the 2018 Kings of Warborn Best Team Award. Perhaps a high point was beating Rusty to the Most Double Ones Award at a tournament here. I was also fortunate to take a podium place in the Hell and High Water Vanguard event held in 2020. Entoyment will be hosting ExploderCon in 2022, a 3-day extravaganza of Mantic games. On a short distance now to Bournemouth and to the International Centre, where the Beachhead Gaming Convention runs each year. The convention features a large room of exhibitors with all the usual exhibitors present, along with a range of other displays. There's a large gaming hall with several different game systems being played. In 2019, the Moonrakers managed a 1st and 2nd place finish. Next successful in 2020, Beach 2022 will be held in this venue, but beware, while the gaming runs for 2 days, the exhibitors may only attend on the Saturday. And so we come full circle back to our starting point in Salisbury and to Moonraker Mansion. Now, Moonrakers ran a tournament in the British Legion in 2018. This ran very well until the power in the venue failed, and the tournament had to be abandoned after 3 games. Since then, a series of invitational events have been held at Moonraker Mansion, including inter-club challenges between the Moonrakers and Oxford, House Lannister and Warborn. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that quick battlefield tour and I look forward to seeing you all at events in the future.